This by far has been the most dominant season in a closely competitive league on Football Manager 2023. With 2.55 points per game and over 90 goals scored in the league, I was able to dominate the Northern Irish League with the mid-table team Coleraine. It's Coleraine, right? Or Coleraine, one of those. I can't actually pronounce the name. We won most of our games, losing just 3 in the season. We drew 4 games and then won 30. One of those games we had a goal difference of 61 and we won the league and cup double, only losing out. Okay, we got knocked out from the Bet McLean Cup in the 3rd round, but then we lost also in the final of the Northwestern Cup, where I actually went on to use my under 21 team and my under 18 team to play this final. I think we lost only 1-0. Let me just cross check the schedule. Yes, we lost 1-0 after extra time, so it was kind of like a close game. I used a Nameless 433 tactic to actually dominate the Northern Irish League, and it was one of my subscribers that asked for this tactic. If the tactic is a Nameless 433 tactic, I have to admit. The subscriber asked if this tactic still goes on to work in the new version of Football Manager. That's the final update version of Football Manager. And I went on to test out that tactic with this particular save, and playing the entire season one game at a time helped me actually achieve the amount of results that I did so far. And then one of my strikers, Matthew Shevlin, went on to score 41 goals in the league, and then the second highest was, I think, the second highest was 18 by Andrew Scott. So one player, my center forward, Matthew Shevlin, went on to score 41 goals, and then the rest actually below 10 goals all through the season, 9, 8, 7 up until 4, 2, 3, 1. So we had a great season using this 4-3-3 tactic, and I did go on to make a tweak to the tactic. So there are actually 2 versions of the tactic. This Nameless 4-3-3 tactic version B that you're looking at is the altered version of the original 4-3-3 tactic that has no name. I called it Nameless because the tactic creator did not actually include the name of the tactic. He just saved it as 4-3-3 tactic, and I don't know where I got this from, but it was among one of the top 5 tactics for Football Manager 2023 on FM base. So the Nameless 433B version of the tactic is actually, I made this change midway through the season, as of January, when I noticed that the results were starting to shake a little bit. We're going to take a sneak peek at the schedule here. There's a period when I had problems with, is it Carrick? Yes, about this window here was where I made the tweak to the tactic. We did lose to Carrick 3-2, but that's because I rested so many players. And then against Glentoran was where I realized that we need to actually have an alternative version to the first tactic. And after the first defeat and then a draw against Glentoran, I went on to make changes to the tactic. And against Linsfield, we went on to give Linsfield to beat Linsfield by 5-0. And it has been going well all through that period, I have to admit. So the change that I did to the second version of the tactic was to go on to switch the line of engagement from high defense or high press, high line of engagement to a low block kind of line of engagement, leaving every other thing the same way it is. So that's a subtle tweak that I made to this tactic to try and help us get better results with the tactic. And we're going to go through every player instruction in detail, so in case you do want to go ahead and recreate the tactic for yourself, you can do that. And then looking at what the tactic creator went for here, we can see that it's a sweeper keeper on defend duty, and he did not attach any instruction to the sweeper keeper on defend duty. And there are 2 ball playing defenders on defend duty. What I like about this tactic is that it allows you have a good number of players in attack. They're up to 7 players, so your fullback, your wing back, your ball playing defender, these players are going to venture forward to some degree. Your box to box midfielder, Mezzala on attack, and then inside forwards on attack, and the deep line playmaker on attack as well. All these players are going to get forward as much as they can to try and create chances when your team is in possession of the ball. The Mezzala and the wing back on support duty will collaborate to overload the right hand side of the field. There will be a space vacated by the inside forward on attack duty, as this player is going to venture into the box a lot and also into the half space here. So there's going to be a lot of room in the wide flank for your Mezzala and the wing back on support duty to get into. The halfback naturally is going to stay in the DM position. Often you're going to see him drop in between the 2 center halves to try and receive the ball from the goalkeeper. More often than not, he's going to be in here to try and create a block. That's why you can have a box-to-box midfielder and a Mezzala ahead of him, because the defensive midfielder here is a halfback and he is not going anywhere. These players now have the freedom to actually get into the opposition's third and create chances. The fullback on attack duty here is going to be just to get ahead of the team and try to play across crosses, because the wing back on the right hand side is going to be slightly more creative and play more through passes. So the fullback on attack duty on the left hand side is going to venture into the space vacated by the inside forward on attack duty that is playing on the left hand side. The deep line forward, like the road signifies, as much as he's dropping deep into space a lot, this guy somehow finds his way into the box and ends up scoring 45 or 48 goals in the entire season. So we're going to go to all the player roles one by one, and then you can see the internal instructions assigned to the players. So for the sweeper keeper, there are no instructions attached to him. I did mention that before. The ball playing defenders have been asked to dribble less. Okay, one defender is a central defender on defend duty, and there have not been any instructions attached to him. Have a wing back on support duty here. He has been asked to take more risks, dribble more, shoot less often, tackle harder, and mark tighter. The fullback on attack duty on the left hand side has been asked to pass it shorter, take fewer risks, dribble less, stay wider, and tackle harder. You have a box-to-box midfielder here, like we mentioned. His instruction is to take more risks, run wide with the ball, and shoot less often. The mezzala on attack duty then has been asked to run wide with the ball and tackle harder. The halfback in the DM position has been asked to just tackle harder. Occasionally you can see that the other instructions here has been asked to hold his position, so that's naturally inclined to the halfback. He's going to be in the DM role and not venture too far forward. Your inside forwards on the other hand have been asked to shoot more often, sit narrower, tackle harder, and mark tighter for the inside forward on the left hand side. On the right hand side, he has been asked to sit narrower, tackle harder, and mark tighter. The deep line forward on attack duty has been asked just to dribble less. All the other instructions that followed deep line forward on attack is to hold the ball up, take more risk, and move into channels. Now for the team instructions, the mentality for this tactic is positive. And if you notice in the alternative version of the tactic, that's the Nameless Tactic B, I didn't also change the mentality as well, because I wanted to dominate the ball a lot more and try to create as much chances as we could, knowing that most of the other teams are in the same level with us anyway. So I wanted to be the one that was taking the game to the opposition. That's why I kind of left the mentality on positive. In game, you're going to try and balance it between moving into balance and cautious mentality if you're winning the game, but more often than not, the starting mentality is going to be a positive mentality. And in possession, then the team has been asked to play with a fairly wide width. The passing directness is short, and then the goalkeeper, as you can see here, the team has been instructed to play the ball out of defense. That's also included in the goalkeeper's instruction. Pass is shorter and then slightly higher tempo. The pass into space instruction has also been selected, and the team has been asked to play low crosses and walk the ball into the ball. As far as dribbling is concerned, the team's priority is to keep possession of the ball and pass it amongst themselves, so the dribble less instruction has been selected. In transition, then you can see the goalkeeper's instruction here. He has been asked to distribute it quickly and distribute it to the centre backs by rolling it out. Possession is the priority, and then you can see that the team has also been asked to counter press and to counter. When they're out of possession, then this is probably where the change comes into the tactic. I did mention this earlier. The team has been asked to play with a high press, but in the Nameless version B of the tactic that I went on to recreate or went on to tweak, the pressing directness is now, or the pressing intensity is now with a low block. So the team is not pressing high up the pitch, they're not trying to win the ball early. So if you notice that your opposition is playing well defensively, let's say they are passing the ball amongst themselves a lot in the defense, you can go on to use this original version of the tactic and play with a high press and win the ball back from them. But more often than not, to get to a point where teams is going to take advantage of your pressing, and then they're going to be good at playing out from the back, and it's going to cost you. So you can go on to use the version B of the tactic and have a low block in there where the opposition is going to find it difficult to break your team down. And then when they come all the way out of their own box, you can start to trigger your press, and then you can see that the trigger press here is set to much more often trigger press and then prevent short goalkeeper distributions. Ideally, this wouldn't even be there for the version B of the tactic, but I just let it in there anyway because I know that the team, as much as they are not the most intelligent team in Football Manager, they probably wouldn't force this prevent short goalkeeper distribution if you're using the version B tactic with a low block trigger press. The team has also been instructed to drop off more when the team has lost possession of the ball, so your team is not going to try to catch the opposition out with any kind of offside trap in any way. So they're going to keep the back four in a solid line and then try to win the ball back as soon as possible, and if they cannot, they will shift closer and closer to their own goal and try to defend from there. So there are no set pieces attached to this tactic, so most of your goals are going to be from open play. You also occasionally get the goal from corner, but that's using the default set pieces, and if you do have your own set piece routines, you can go on to attach them to this tactic and get it to work for you. We'll briefly look at the stats for this tactic, and then you can see that in the Danske Premier League team stats, then we had the most points per game, 2.55. We had the most goals with 91, fewest shots against, 309. All the other teams were like 330 and above. Most shots for was by Raine. I'm really struggling to pronounce this name. And then 65 or 654 shots. So had the highest amount of possession as well, 64% average possession. Most dribbles and most tackles one was by Lanre And for tackling, we're not really in there because we're not trying to break legs in this league. But dribbling, we're in 8th place with 416. That's because my team is primarily trying to pass the ball. They're not trying to run at the defense or anything. Most shutouts was by Cole Raine, and then 16 clean sheets thanks to my goalkeeper. And then the fewest conceded was by Cole Raine again. That's 30 goals allowed all season. We can see the player overview as well. Matthew Shelvin had highest amount of goals in 31. He did go on to score 40 something goals throughout all competitions, but in the league, he had 31 goals, and then the most assists was by Andrew Scott, which was the prime creator in my side. He had 17 assists overall. Jamie Clarkin is in there as well with 8. And then most player of the match was by Shevlin as well. He's 26 years old. What a wonderful player this guy is. Most shots, we had Andrew Scott in there and Matthew Shevlin as well in the 102 and 84 category. And then most tackles won, like I mentioned, we're not trying to break legs, so we're not in that category as well. Most dribbles, we're not in here because we're trying to pass the ball all the time. And then the fewest conceded, you can see Gareth Dean in 2nd place with 27 goals conceded. And then Warren Points Williamson. I'm probably going to sign this 29-year-old goalkeeper now because, wow, 16 goals allowed. I need to sign him. So I did test out this tactic with Cole Raine, and this is Northern Irish Division as well. So it's almost like the Vanarama Conference League because the teams here are semi-professional. I think Coraline, let me just have a sneak peek at my club info. Semi-professional status. Yes, Coraline is actually a semi-professional team, so that's similar to Vanarama non-league football anyway. So you can feel free to test out this tactic with your elite teams, your mid-table sides, your sub-top teams, and then see how the tactic goes on to work out for you. By the way, remember to subscribe to the channel for more Football Manager tactic content and Football Manager overpowered tactic hints and tips like this. If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like on it. That really helps the channel to grow. I'll catch you guys with more Football Manager tactics like this in the future. See you in the next video.